Team, how do you deal with subordinates that just won't they just won't they just won't take the guidance and the mentorship and the development and the correction that you're trying to give, right? I think regardless of your rank, grade, or position, you're going to find over the course of your career that you are going to come across some folks who have just given up, right? They just don't get it. They just can't receive some correction and move on in a new and proper course. Good Lord knows I have seen and had my fair share of these folks. Now, to be honest and to be transparent, I have had way more positive soldiers and soldiers who are value added to the organization and to my life personally than those who did not. However, pause for dramatic effect. Those who are not moving in the right direction, they're out there, they exist. And I hear a lot in, both formal systems of education as well as through some informal on how to deal with things like this. But truth be told, like, there is no real world application. There's no story that is providing the meat and the potatoes. Like, I could show you black and white all day long, but how do you incarnate that? How do you flesh that out? What are some mistakes that have been made? What are some lessons learned? And so in this video, I want to try to give you all of that. And I'm going to challenge and encourage you to leave some comments down below with some of the things that you have picked up, whether it's right, wrong, or just, some different spices and flavor that we can put into the conversation. And I think, from my experience, what we're going to talk about applies to us in the military, but it's also applied to my work outside of the military. And that's the first story I want to share with you, is that as a plant manager in a manufacturing company, I had guys that we hired and fired all the time. Hey, bud. Yeah, that's a good dog. That's Riggs. He says, hey. He says, hey, guys. And he says, stay stoked. So we hired and we fired folks, left and right, depending on the season and how busy we were. And not everybody that we fired was because they were, not cutting the mustard. But, from time to time, we would end up hiring somebody, whether it was through a temp agency or, just off an application. And they weren't quite working to standard. And so one of the things that I would do in that particular situation and learned early on is to not be emotionally connected with the individual or their non-conforming performance. Does it make sense? Like, the moment that they trigger you is the moment that you set yourself up to act out of emotion and reaction. So, I could write folks up at the time, and I could bring them in and give them a verbal counseling or, a written informal counseling. And I could also modify what they did on a day-to-day basis. One of the easiest ways that I found, as a civilian was, instead of firing somebody, put them in a position to get them to quit. Nobody wants to sandblast all day. But in the military, we're contract labor. And so you don't have that opportunity or the availability to just fire somebody because you don't like them. And some of that is a protection mechanism on those subordinates, right? If they fall in line with somebody and there's a conflict of personality, or it is a leadership failure, not a subordinate failure, that we have these mechanisms in place in order to keep this person, because they came in on a contract. So it's a process in order to let them go, because their contract is not with you or I. It is with the United States Army, if you're in the Army, or the Marine Corps, whatever branch of service that you're in. And so it's a process to work forward to separate somebody. Now, before it gets to anything like that, we have some event-oriented uh, moments in time that are capturing our attention, whether it's a failure to report, people are showing up late or just not at all for the day, or they are just, their performance is absolutely substandard. And I have found, especially in the military, that we, especially as junior leaders and junior NCOs, I'm certainly guilty myself of reacting again out of that emotion. Now, on the civilian side, you're a little bit more subject to some HR issues that you may have, especially depending on the organization that you're working for. In the military, of course, you have the same thing, but you're also subject to some different complaints, because there's a lot of rules and articles and policies and regulations that guide and shape how we interact with those who are in our charge, right? And so not only do you have, should you act out of emotion, run the risk of, some sort of what, the civilians may call an HR complaint. It may be, an equal opportunity complaint. It could be an inspector general complaint. Those are probably the two largest ones. Whether or not, we're creating a hostile work environment, whether or not we're acting and motivating out of some sort of discriminatory manner, or, whether we're just not abiding by some policies. And I think this is where I see more people make some mistakes or have some lessons learned in how they deal with these types of characters. Is that once we begin to act out of emotion, we start to say and to do things and to create courses of action that are not fueled by the intent of correcting sub-performance standard and getting somebody to meet and exceed what the military and our organization expects of them. But we use these moments as I got you moment. And we begin to create, again, some of these things that we expect of somebody, like a 10,000 word essay, or getting smoked for an entire day, for something that had, again, no relation or bearing to what the discrepancy was. And we begin to vocalize our anger, our concern, our disgust, whatever emotions that we're feeling. We project these back out to our subordinates. And we often find people getting put into a situation where they begin to not just correct, but to demean and to degrade our subordinates. Now, good Lord knows that I have chewed folks up one side and down the other. And I have used physical corrective training in the past. And I'm not knocking these measures. What I'm submitting to you is that when doing them, you need to understand that you should be able to stop and put on a different hat, right? So quite some time ago, young Sergeant Stoker, when I was in the Marine Corps, was in the process of conducting a junk on the bunk inspection, a room inspection, if you will. Only I was also looking at all the issued gear and all of the service uniforms and everything set up in a wall locker. And I'd given this individual quite a bit of time to get ready for it, because he had some other discrepancies and failures in the past. And I walked into the room and I completely lost my mind, because it was a hot mess. And completely to tear the room apart. Had an outside catwalk, man. I was throwing all of his crap outside, and it was a hot mess. And truth be told, I probably stepped over across a couple lines. Certainly got into the gray matter, if you will. But I remember my battle buddy, Sergeant Johnson. He came and he knocked on the door, and he's like, "Hey, Sergeant, can I talk to you outside?" I was like, "Yeah, battle. Hold on. Don't you go anywhere." He start doing some more flutter kicks. And so I go outside, and When I say that I was ripping into this dude, I mean like I was a tornado, right? Just absolute whirlwind of clutter and debris and literal crap, which is what got him into this particular situation because he literally had crap filled drawers in his Alice pack from the last time that we were in the field that I found during this inspection. And so that's what really just made me start to go off. And then I found some liquor. Of course, he's underage, and there's all kinds of craptastic stuff. But even in the heat of acting in and through some emotion, when my battle buddy came and knocked on the door, Sergeant Johnson, and I went outside, it was like, "Hey, battle, what's up, man?" I could completely separate in time and space the angry NCO hat and the "Hey, what's up, battle buddy, compadre" hat. I was completely calm and collected. And if we can't do that, then I would suggest that everything that we're doing is probably tainted a little bit in the wrong direction. So many times anymore, what I tell folks ultimately, there's two types of people out there when it comes to issues like this. Some folks are like me, man. I'm a meathead, and I always have been. And so a good butt chewing, a little bit of a smoke session, back when I was younger, cleaning and stripping latrines and floors and stuff like that, man, I've gone through it myself, right? That was enough for me to see the error in my ways and to keep moving forward. Some folks, that has absolutely no value. There's no return on the investment. It doesn't click. And what some folks need is to see it, in black and white, and that can fix some issues. But where either one does not fix an issue, right? When a butt chewing and some corrective training is not working, you have event after event after event. Or when you have a counseling after counseling after counseling, or a combination of both, and you're not getting anywhere, what do you do? What you need to do is completely separate yourself emotionally. You need to detach yourself from the events. If somebody's acting like a turd, they're continuously and habitually showing up late, they're acting a little bit disrespectful, it's too easy, bruh. I have an event-oriented counseling here for you. This is a one-way conversation, by the way. Key points of discussion: event-oriented counseling. On such and such date, and list out the 5 W's and nothing more than the 5 W's. The who, you, what, showed up late, did whatever, at this particular time, at this particular place. It's your appointed place of duty that you knew based off the training schedule that's posted in the common area. You failed to do X, Y, and Z, known by you to be the right thing to do. You disrespected myself as a non-commissioned officer, known by you to be a non-commissioned officer. I'm going to warn you that actions continuing as such may result and lead to administrative measures or even non-judicial punishment or separation, which includes a variety of consequences and second, third order effects, which may impact your education, your benefits. Plan of action. Forward to commander for action. You initial on the front, sign on the back, add any comments that you'd like to. Oh, what's that? You don't want to sign? That's too easy. Hey, battle, sign here stating that the service member refused to sign. I can do that myself. And we're still going to forward it to the commander for action. Oh, you want to write, 1,000 words in response and rebuttal to this? That's too easy, man. Go ahead. Have it to me by tomorrow, and then we will forward this all to the commander for action. Now, if you had done everything right prior to in your counseling sessions with this person, and if you had done everything right in your engagements with this individual, that's all you need. And let the system work for you. Too many times we're trying to make the system work ourselves. What you need to do is let the systems that are in place work for you. Ensure that your supervisor, ensure that your first line NCO knows the issues that you've been having with these individuals, so that it's no surprise. You've tried everything. You've tried talking to this individual. You've tried counseling them. You've tried corrective training. You've tried X, Y, and Z, and they are non-responsive. They clearly do not want to progress and to conform to the Army values. They don't want to conform to the standards, rules, regulations, and policies that we are all subject to. These folks are acting selfishly instead of selflessly. Everybody's tracking. You send up this counseling. Boom. Man, that's a summarized Article 15 all day long. Especially if it's a couple FTRs or a couple infractions of doing the wrong thing or mouthing off or just having crappy days because they're acting like turds. Summarize Article 15, man, that's a slap in the face ultimately, because commanders really can't do that much, and everything is filed in a local file. And we're going to talk more about this because we need to expound on it a little bit further in its own video, the power of a summarized Article 15. Again, the commander can't do that much. And for too many people, I think, well, we're just going to go company grade or field grade. Man, slow your roll. Think about the long game instead of the short game. If I have a soldier with a summarized Article 15 and they continue down the same path, what did we just establish? We established a pattern. That pattern can lead to a separation. It could lead, automatically we could do a bar to continued service. I don't even need to conduct a company grade Article 15, although I could, to continue show evidence of a pattern. And you let the system work for you. You don't have to work it yourself, man. You're not going at this alone. Talk with your supervisors. Talk with your section sergeants, your platoon sergeants, your first sergeants. I talk to my, CSM all the time about issues that I'm having, so that when things rise up, he's already tracking. And it's not to get him focused negatively on the individual. It's just so that they have the awareness of what I'm doing and how I'm dealing with it. So that if I need to shift left, I can shift left. If I need to shift right, I can shift right. I can get some other resources out there working in the direction that needs to go for the benefit of two things, for the benefit of that soldier and for the benefit of the organization. Team, I appreciate all you guys, man. You guys are out there grinding so hard each and every single day, man. And I don't know that you get enough credit. And certainly if you've made it this far, man, hats off to you for trying to invest a little bit more into who you are as a leader, an emerging leader. I'm looking forward especially to seeing your comments down below of what you thought of this conversation and if it was value added and what other conversations we need to broaden and enlarge as we all continue to seek to master our craft and develop our tactical virtue. Until then, fellas, man, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked.